Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Okay, you have a chance to review the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
One
But-
correction I think was
With-
pointed out this morning.
Which was?
That Caroline Barney Alvarado was being replaced by her colleague. And it's correct in the project subcommittee, but it's not mentioned in the act.
Motion to approve with said correction.
All right,
Second.
second with Sandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And we'll move right on into the project subcommittee with Jen. Jen, you gotta talk up, because I can barely hear you this morning.
Oh, really?
Get your microphone on. You got a mic on?
I'm gonna try it on. That should help. Okay, okay, I'm guessing you can hear me. Trying to figure out a good place to stand. Oh, geez, okay. Is there not another speaker?
Yeah, not from either of those, anywhere else.
Okay, can everyone see? Okay. Oh. Oh, you guys are demanding. Okay, that's fine. There we go. Ish. That's okay. Okay, let me get back into my position. Good afternoon, Jennifer Esposito. I'm going to be presenting a project for the Masonville DMCF. It's the Plus 30 Dike Raising Project on behalf of Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Port Administration. Before I begin, we do have some representatives here today to sit through this for the second time, but also to help answer any questions you may have. So the Masonville DMCF is located in Baltimore City. It is on the middle branch of the Patapsco River, west of the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel, I-895. The DMCF is mostly within the critical area on lands designated as intensely developed area and is considered a waterfront waterfront industrial area. The existing conditions, the DMCF dike is at plus 18 above mean lower low water, and the surrounding area is industrial in nature, and it is where offloading cargo is stored and also to be processed. The proposed project is to raise the DMCF dike perimeters up to plus 30 above mean lower low water. There is a list of detailed scope of work on page 2 of your staff report. There's associated work that is involved with raising the dike. Currently, again, it's at 18 above mean lower low water. And there's a future build out to plus 42 above mean lower water to provide additional 20 years of dredge material from the Baltimore shipping channels. This, you have a couple different sheets attached to your staff report. This is showing the proposed impervious surface that will be associated and looked at as impacts a part of this project. The light green area here is connoting the LOD, or teal color. The dark blue is showing the impervious surface that will be located inside the buffer, and the red is showing impervious surface outside the buffer. The LOD for the entire project is about 29 acres, of which 17 is located within the critical area. They're proposing about 3.22 acres of new impervious surface. I believe it was 1.92 of which is located within the buffer. So based on a more recently approved Exhibit A4 to the MDOT MOU that we have with CAC, it allows the port to provide a more structured fee in lieu approach for habitat and water quality impacts. That is based on the total amount of fee in lieu required is based on various ratios depending on if the new impervious surface is located inside or outside the critical area. There are no vegetation removal associated with this project and no structures are being proposed. So that provides a total that the MDOT MPA will pay towards and fund through Chesapeake Bay Trust grant programs. That is also allowed under a new recently approved MOU structure between MDOT MPA, Critical Area Commission, and the Chesapeake Bay Trust. And those those grant funds go to actually provide in-the-ground water quality and habitat restoration projects located around the Baltimore City area, north of 97, where a lot of the impacts are generally derived from MPA projects. So as a part of COMAR requirements with projects on state lands, MDOT MPA provided responses as to how this project considers inundation from sea level rise, more severe storm events, and how climate resiliency practices were potentially incorporated into the project. There's a detailed list provided in your staff report, but to sum, the current elevations of the perimeter dike and the proposed elevations of the perimeter dike, as well as the current armoring around the dike, puts it well safe out of the sea level rise projections, category 1 through 4 hurricanes and other storm events. With permit agency reviews, with Maryland Department of Environment, dam safety review is currently underway. The stormwater management and erosion sediment control, they received concept approval in June of this year, and they're anticipating full approval by this month. The tidal wetlands license was received by the Maryland Board of Public Works for the full build out of plus 42 above mean lower low water. Therefore, they're okay with this phase of the project, and there are no non-tidal wetland impacts associated with this project. Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife and Heritage Service indicated that there will be no impacts to rare, threatened, or endangered species. The water adjacent to the DMCF is considered historic waterfall concentration area. However, this project will not impact that area. Maryland Historic Trust indicated that there are no impacts to historic resources, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service indicated that there is no critical habitat, refuge lands, or fish hatcheries that will be impacted with this project. They met the public notice requirement, and as of to date, no public comments were received. And with that, I will turn it over back to Chairman Deegan.
Thank you. Have any questions? Boy, that's great. I guess run a little late, speed them up. Huh? Well, the chair will recognize Sandy Hertz, the chair of the project subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the project subcommittee, I move that the commission approve the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Port Administration project to raise the perimeter dike of the Masonville Dredge Material Containment Facility from an elevation of plus 18 feet above mean lower low water to an elevation of plus 30 feet above mean lower low water. The proposed project will provide additional capacity for the placement of the maintenance dredge material from the Port of Baltimore shipping channel. This motion is offered in accordance with the staff report and presentation and the following condition. Prior to the start of construction, the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Port Administration shall submit to commission staff copies of authorizations issued by the Maryland Department of the Environment for the following. A, erosion and sediment control and stormwater management, and B, dam safety review.
Okay, moved and seconded by Sean Ames. Any discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll have Charlotte, and you got
Wastewater treatment plant.
I wanted to go back. Is Mason Cove having an open house soon? Like this coming weekend or next? Or
Hey, Paul, is Masonville Cove having an open house soon?
Cox Creek does.
Cox Creek?
That's what
Okay.
I'm thinking of. Is that this weekend?
I believe it is. I can.
I was just gonna give you a plug, but that's all right. Guess it'd be better if I remember which one I was talking about. All right, Charlotte, it's all yours.
Okay. So as the chairman said, my name is Charlotte Sharon, and I will be presenting the Elk Neck State Park Wastewater Treatment Plant. This is a joint effort between the Department of Natural Resources and Maryland Environmental Services, and we do have representatives from MES here, as well as consultant for the project. So this, as I said, the wastewater treatment plant is located in Elk Neck State Park. The park is located in Northeast Maryland in Cecil County. It is divided up into kind of 4 different areas, and the wastewater treatment plant is located kind of closest to the Elk River camping area. It's right here. It's located specifically at the end of Thackeray Road. So again, this is the wastewater treatment plant right here. It is located in the buffer, and it is in need of an upgrade to meet the current use of the park, as well as to provide the enhanced nutrient removal. So there will be impacts to the buffer for this project. Those impacts will be mitigated at a 3-to-1 ratio. There is also a 10% pollutant removal requirement for stormwater in the critical area, and this will be met on site with a microbiome retention facility and 3 micro-infiltration dry wells. So right now, the buffer mitigation is currently proposed in this area on site. This is within the critical area, but outside of the critical area buffer. And so commission staff, when we were reviewing this project, we felt like there could be a location on site within the buffer in this area where at least some of the buffer mitigation could be met. So just keep that in mind when we get to Chair Hertz's recommendations. So the project has received concept approval from Maryland Department of the Environment on their stormwater review. There were no state, federal listed candidate proposed or rare plant or animal species according to DNR Wildlife and Heritage Service. The project did go on public notice. There is a sign posted on site, as well as an ad put into the Cecil WIG, and no comments have been received as of today. And then finally, Maryland Historical Trust determined that there were no historic properties that would be affected by the project. So as far as climate resiliency goes, this project is outside of the sea level rise predictions. The storm surge predictions will potentially impact a southernmost portion of the site, but it's in an area where there are no current improvements and there will be no proposed improvements. There are no wetland migration areas on site. The nearest wetland migration area is located here. And finally, the project meets the CoSmart construction siting and design criteria because it is outside of the CS crab boundary. So as I said, this project requires conditional approval from the commission. You can find more detailed information addressing the standards for conditional approval on pages 3 to 5 of my staff report. But generally speaking, like I said, all of the existing improvements are located in the buffer, so upgrading those improvements sort of inherently requires disturbance to the buffer. The existing facility is in need of an upgrade, and this will provide a public benefit through improved sanitation and improved water quality. Other than the impacts to the buffer, the project is in compliance with critical area law and regulations. The impacts will be mitigated and stormwater management will be provided, which will prevent substantial environmental impacts from the project, as well as improve sanitation measures provided by the wastewater treatment plant upgrade itself. And no clearing of vegetation is proposed. The disturbance is just ground disturbance within the buffer, which will be mitigated. And are there any questions?
Good job, Charlotte.
I will turn it over to.
Thank you. And I'll recognize Sandy Hertz, Chairman of the Project Subcommittee, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Project Subcommittee and in accordance with the staff report and presentation, I move that the Commission approve the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and Maryland Environmental Service proposal to construct a new wastewater treatment plant in Elk Neck State Park on Thackeray Point Road.
And
This project, hold that thought. This project requires conditional approval by the Commission under COMAR 27.02.06.01 because DNR and MES propose non-water dependent impacts to the critical area buffer. This motion to approve is based on the following conditions. With the exception of impacts to the buffer due to the existing, did I say considerations there with the following considerations? Okay, sorry. With the exception of impacts to the buffer due to the existing location of the wastewater treatment plant, the proposed project is in compliance with COMAR 27.02.05. Number 2, there will be no clearing of forest or disturbance to other important habitat areas. DNR and MES will be providing 3-to-1 mitigation on site for all non-water dependent critical area buffer impacts. Number 3, the proposed project offers public benefits to the critical area program by providing better treatment of sewage effluent before it is discharged into the Elk River. Additionally, stormwater runoff is currently untreated at the site. The proposed micro-bioretention facility and dry wells meet the 10% requirements and will further improve water quality in the bay. This motion is also offered in accordance with the staff report and presentation and the following 2 additional conditions. Within 30 days of Commission approval, MES and DNR shall coordinate a site visit with the Commission staff to identify potential alternative planting sites within or adjacent to the buffer or forested areas. If an appropriate alternative site is located, MES will provide a revised planting plan and planting agreement form within an additional 60 days from the site visit. Number 2, prior to the start of construction, DNR and MES shall submit a copy of all final plans, permits, and approvals, including stormwater management plans and MDE, stormwater and erosion and sediment control authorizations to Commission staff.
And that's seconded by Steve
Parker?
Any questions? Saying none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. And before the MES people leave, make sure you tell Dr. Glass how happy we were that he joined us on our Poplar Island tour this month. We appreciate it. Should have mentioned that earlier. Okay, Susan Maloof. We're going back to St. Mary's County.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Chairman Deegan. So I'm Susan McCloof, and I will be presenting an update to the Memorandum of Understanding between St. Mary's College of Maryland and the Critical Area Commission. Before we continue, I'd like to introduce Thomas Brewer, Manager of Environmental Health, Safety, and Sustainability at St. Mary's College. He's attending the meeting today on behalf of the MOU and will be available to assist in any questions you might have. So St. Mary's College is a public institution of higher learning located in St. Mary's County, adjacent to historic St. Mary's City. The campus encompasses approximately 360 acres, including waterfront areas along the St. Mary's River. The school was founded in 1840 and was incorporated by an act of legislation in 1846. In 1992, the Maryland legislature designated St. Mary's College the state's public honors college. The college shares land with historic St. Mary's City, and the campus and historic St. Mary's City together are considered one of the most important archaeological sites in the United States. The college is located partially within the critical area, and it includes land designated as intensely developed area and resource conservation area. So per COMAR 270203, the Critical Area Commission is required to approve any action by a state agency which results in development in the critical area on state-owned land, private lands, or lands owned by local jurisdictions. COMAR specifically gives the Commission the ability to enter into a general approval with state agencies to seek approval for programs or classes of activities that result in development of a minor scale in the critical area. This general approval authority has commonly been implemented through the use of a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, between the Commission and the state agency. The purpose of the MOU is to provide a streamlined process for the review of specific types of projects by allowing Critical Area Commission staff to conduct necessary project review and approvals in lieu of a full commission vote. The MOU is the legal agreement between the college and the Critical Area Commission and outlines the process to be used by both parties for approval by the Commission for St. Mary's College projects located within the critical area. The goal for this updated MOU is to incorporate new requirements and to improve the review process for St. Mary's College projects. The MOU itself comprises 10 sections, including the following: purpose, roles and responsibilities, term, mitigation, climate resiliency, and general provisions. Exhibit A of the MOU, which begins on page 8, includes the conditions for general approval of St. Mary's College projects that may be approved at the agency or staff level. These projects are divided into two categories: Class 1, annually reported activities, and Class 2, activities requiring prior approval. Class 1 projects allow for maintenance of existing facilities and other activities that are minor in scope and/or size. Class 2 projects include new minor development projects as well as development activities that may change the layout or design of an existing facility. Class 2 projects must meet the Class 2 qualifying parameters, which begin on page 10 of the MOU. The MOU also includes 3 attachments. Attachment 1 is a mitigation guidance document, and it includes stormwater management guidance and a master buffer management plan. Attachment 2 is a site-wide climate resiliency assessment, and it includes procedures for St. Mary's College staff to follow to determine whether a proposed project is located within a vulnerable area, and if so, to assess climate resilient practices that address coastal hazards, extreme weather events, sea level rise, and other impacts. Attachment 3 includes tracking spreadsheets. The spreadsheets provide a standard method to track Class 1 projects for the annual reporting and to track mitigation for all projects with mitigation requirements. So thank you for your attention, and I will now turn it back over to Chairman Deegan.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll recognize the program chair, Sandy Hertz, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the project subcommittee, I move that the commission approve the St. Mary's College of Maryland proposal to update the existing memorandum of understanding between St. Mary's College of Maryland and the Critical Area Commission. The current MOU between the two agencies was signed in 2011. The goal for the updated MOU between SMCM and the Commission is to incorporate new requirements and improve the review process for SMCM projects. To that end, the updates will encompass additional project types and will be more in line with other state agency MOUs. This motion is offered in accordance with the staff report and presentation.
And seconded by Sue Greer. Thank you. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. That's great. I love MOUs. It's like a feather in our cap, I think. Okay, well, next move over to programs. And Tay Harris, you want to start us off with comprehensive review of Harford County.
Whoops, that's.
Did I? That was unintentional. I keep going, sorry, there's more than one Hartford County here.
That's not good.
I'm not sure why it's doing that, just a moment.
There's a from the beginning option up in the upper
Oh, I didn't
left
press
corner.
that option.
Just press that one, and now go from the beginning.
That works. Okay. I guess I need to stand over here, fall asleep. Okay. All right, hi, I'm Tay Harris. I'm going to present to you the Hartford County Comprehensive Program Review for the critical area. Hartford County is located in the northern portion of the state, as indicated by the map on the right-hand side of the slide. Less than 3% of Hartford County's critical area lands are designated critical area due to the presence of the military installation of the Aberdeen Proving Ground. Now, these lands are still located in the critical area, but they are subject to the Coastal Zone Management Act. Of the 3% of the lands that are designated critical area in the county, 74% are designated resource conservation area, 15% designated limited development area, and 11% is designated intensely developed area. The program was originally approved in May 24th of 1988, and the last update occurred in 2011. So Natural Resources Article 8-1809G requires each local jurisdiction to review and update its local critical area program every 6 years to ensure compliance with critical area law, regulations, and criteria. On June 21st, 2022, the Hartford County Council approved Bills 22-11 through 22-13 to comprehensively update its critical area program. So these bills updated certain provisions in the Hartford County zoning ordinance, in the Hartford County master plan, and the Hartford County subdivision regulations. So I'm going to go ahead and start summarizing for you Bill 22-11. This bill amended the zoning ordinance, in particular sections 4, 11, and 36, which are definitions, variances, and then the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Overlay District. So section 4 definitions was updated to reflect a few different things. Some of the definitions and most of the updates reflect the model ordinance and then changes that have occurred since the last update of the program in 2011. Other updates reflect consistency with definitions in other parts of the county code. For example, family was not included in this section of the definitions. It's located in a different portion of the code, and it reflects, or it's consistent with the Federal Fair Housing Act. And then lastly, few of the definitions were updated to reflect county programs. And they're still consistent with the critical area program. But for example, Hartford County has a hazardous tree program, so their definition for hazardous tree matches their local program. Okay, Bill 22-11 also, what it does is it refers to the critical area program in its entirety, in the variance section of the zoning ordinance. Previously, it just referred to the overlay district. So the program in its entirety includes the overlay district, the program manual, and then sections 4, 11, and 63 of the zoning ordinance. Okay, and this is really the meat of the updates. This is updates to the overlay district itself. And you can categorize these updates into 2 different categories generally. This slide represents the updates that were conducted to reflect the model ordinance and updated COMAR Title 27 regulations since the county's last update in 2011. So for example, the county included lot coverage limit table applicable to the LDA and the RCA, included mapping criteria and density requirements for all 3 of the overlay districts, and updated sections of its ordinance to reflect the updated regulations in COMAR Title 27 related to water-dependent facilities, surface mining, and renewable energy generating systems. So this slide represents updates made to the overlay district that focus more on the county's goals for its local program, and also it represents local procedures that are slightly different than critical area procedures. So for example, appealing a Board of Appeals decision. The county sends the appellate to the circuit court instead of to the Board of Appeals to appeal the Board of Appeals decision. So that's reflected in the zoning ordinance. The remaining listed items, these reflect the county's goals for their program. For example, they clarify certain development activities that require permits, and this is to clear up some different types of activities that might represent violations that occur, or activities that were previously unpermitted or did not require a permit and now require a permit. For example, it's a sidewalk, a driveway, gazebo, patio, those types of things. And then the county decided to increase its fee in lieu rate by $4 to $4 per square foot. And this is throughout the critical areas program in its entirety. COMAR Title 27 buffer regulations require a fee in lieu at a rate of $1.50 per square foot in the buffer, but outside of the buffer, it's unspecified, and a fee in lieu ranges from jurisdiction to jurisdiction and can be anywhere from under $1 to several dollars per square foot outside of the buffer. And then the last 2 listed items have to do with their timber harvesting operations. The county decided that they were going to prohibit timber harvesting in all HPAs, including the buffer. COMAR Title 27 buffer regulations allow timber harvesting in the buffer, but only up to 50 feet. You cannot disturb within 50 feet of mean high water line or tidal wetlands, the edge of tidal wetlands, and you only can timber harvest, where's Claudia? So you can only timber harvest loblolly pines and tulip poplars. And then lastly, the county requires a forest management plan for all timber harvesting operations in the county. Currently, COMAR Title 27 allows for disturbance of HPAs, or allows disturbance of HPAs in the LCA, RCA, and the IDA, but you have to minimize those impacts, and you have to create a forest management plan, and you have to seek approval of a forest management plan for anything of 1 acre or more. So the county's requirements are more stringent than Title 27, COMAR 27, in that it just requires a plan and management for all sizes of timber harvesting activities, and no HPAs may be impacted. Okay, so and then lastly, I'd like to point out that in the overlay district, the county opted not to implement non-water dependent structures on piers in the critical area. So this is an opt-in section, and examples, you could have a home, an office, an uncovered, or a temporary or permanent covering on a pier, and you could also have solar panels or energy generating systems, as long as they meet certain parameters such as height, setback, etc. Okay, so now we're on to Bill 22-12. And what this bill does is this amends the master plan. So again, the critical area program is referenced in its entirety in the master plan. And then under this bill, the critical area program manual is updated. The Chesapeake Bay Critical Area Overlay District map is updated. And it's updated in two ways. One way is that the 1,000-foot boundary is updated, which this is being reviewed under separate file. And Lisa Berger will be presenting this to you after, I believe, this presentation. And then the other update to the map is the county approved 12 properties to be designated as modified buffer areas. So here we go. Here's the inclusion of the whole entire program in the master plan, just for demonstration purposes. Here we got all the elements. The Harford County Critical Area Manual is updated mostly to reflect updates to the zoning ordinance and any updates to the critical area law and regulations that have happened since 2011. In addition, there's background information and supplemental data in this program manual, and that was also updated to reflect like the most recent data or the most recent studies. Okay, and then also the county proposed, these are the 12 properties designated for MBA. So here we have the buffer delineation, this yellow line. And so what the county did to justify or to verify that these properties are eligible for MBA designation is you have to prove that the properties are grandfathered, which means they were approved before the adoption of the local program or before December 1, 1985. Then you also have to look at the development patterns in the buffer. So if the development patterns in the buffer prohibit the buffer from functioning as intended, which is a transition zone of habitat and nutrient uptake functions, then you determine those two things, and then we can approve it or agree with the county's assessment. So in the assessment, each property here is the overlay zone is IDA. Each property is less than 1/4 of an acre in size, and the lot coverage that's impacting the buffer ranges anywhere from like partial of a house to being right on the edge, portions of patios, sheds, etc. And it could be anywhere from 17 to 80% of the buffer is impacted by current development patterns. And then lastly, Bill 2213, this again just includes the program, reference the program in its entirety within the county's subdivision regulations. Okay, so the natural resources inventory. COMA requires each local jurisdiction to update its natural resources inventory when it does its comprehensive program review. This natural resources inventory includes state-listed species from Wildlife Heritage Services, DNR's Wildlife and Heritage Service. So we coordinate with them, and we were a little off on the coordination. So when Harford County went to approve their program, we did not have the updated natural resources inventory and accompanying maps for the approval. So we are going to have to address that at a later date. Okay. Now I'd like to turn this over to Chairman Deegan. Thank you.
Have any questions for Ted?
I do have a question.
You would.
I'm sorry. Within your staff report on page 3, when we talk about the modified buffer area, there's a line that says the county originally designated MBA parcels in, and then it just says insert year. So was there a specific year that the county originally designated those parcels?
Remember writing that? Yeah, I have no idea.
All I can say is I think it was the second time we did the critical area update. That's my memory.
The second
That's
time?
something I should say in the public meeting.
Probably in the
I'll have to get
1990s.
back to you on that, Dan. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, it just, I figured you probably wanted a specific year in there. I just wanted to point it out as something that didn't make it into the report.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
Well, I'll pass the answer on to staff.
Okay, thanks.
And what were included in the report.
Charlie, I have a question.
Here you are.
Yeah. So the plan requires forest management plans on all the critical areas properties? It's
Timber
part-
harvesting operations.
It doesn't require forest management plan? That's what I heard you say.
It does for timber harvesting operations, but
But it doesn't require, I thought I heard you say that this requires a forest management plan in critical areas, is that correct? So if the forest management plan, part of the plan is for timber harvest, how do you handle that?
so the forest management plan is for all timber harvesting activities, but I guess,
Is it being confused with forest conservation plan?
So is there a misconception about what the plan, so it requires a conservation plan, but not a forest management plan?
okay, Joel, you might want to answer this, because this was when you went and talked to the gentleman at, was it forestry, and you kind of talked through what your goal was, and then this was the plan applied to, that you could use for all timber harvesting operations, is that correct?
Yeah, I know we ran it by the forestry board, the changes that we made. It's a little too long ago for me to remember exactly the context, but I know they reviewed it, so.
So I think what the not to interject, but I think maybe some of the confusion is that the state law is this, the Harford County is more restrictive than the state law. The state law requires if you're gonna timber, I think is the context of this, if you're gonna timber forest within the critical area, state law allows you, up to an acre, is that what I heard you say?
So
More than an
if
acre.
you do timber harvesting in the resource conservation area, the limited development area, the IDA, and you impact habitat protection areas, you must minimize that impact, but you also have to do a forest conservation plan or a forest management plan for any disturbance of 1 acre or more.
Right.
So it's the 1 acre or more.
So that's state law, but Harford County is saying it doesn't matter to them. If you're going to timber in these areas, you're gonna have to do a forest management plan for any portion of your property. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Does that answer?
Does that answer the?
It does, thank you.
What trees were covered in the hazardous tree plan that you referenced?
What trees?
Yeah, or is it a specific tree or like what is that plan? Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to defer that question to the county, because I don't know their hazardous tree program. I mean, assuming it's, are you asking what the definition is?
Yes, basically.
Okay.
I can pull up our zoning ordinance, we have a definition of hazardous tree, and that's all, we just followed it, and it's consistent with COMAR, so that's, we didn't make a change in another section of ordinance.
Hazardous trees are not defined by species. They're defined by their location and threats and health. So if a tree might fall on a structure due to
Gotcha.
its
All right.
We do still have to mitigate it hazardous trees.
Okay, no more questions. I'll recognize Sue Beer, the chairman of the program subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman, the program subcommittee concurs with the chairman's determination that the comprehensive review of Harford County's critical area program including the designation of the 12 new parcels as modified buffer areas, may be processed as a refinement to Harford County's critical area program. Further, the program subcommittee recommends the chairman approve the refinement, which consists of Bill 22-011, 22-012, and 22-013, with the conditions set forth in the revised staff report dated October 5th, 2022, but within those two conditions, amending the date from April 30th, 2023 to July 31st, 2023. Further, the proposed changes are consistent with the purposes, policies, and goals of the critical area law. 31st, 2023.
Okay, the chair will accept that recommendation, and that will be my final decision. All the way to, okay. Next, we have Lisa with the, another Harford County critical area map and boundary map.
Thank you, Chairman Deegan. As Chairman Deegan said, I'm Lisa Herger. I'm here to present the mapping update for Harford County, which was part of the bill that Tay just described to you for their comprehensive update. As she said, Harford County is located in the northern and eastern part of the state, as shown in red. And as you all know, because I've done many of these presentations for you before, the map update is required every 12 years by every critical area jurisdiction. This is the first one for Harford County. It's also required in the Code of Maryland Regulations, Title 270111, and Bill 22012, which was approved by the County Council on June 21st, 2022, adopted these maps. So here is a summary, which is also included in your staff report. 735 acres were gained, 1,273 acres were lost, with a net loss of 538 acres, which I'll explain in a moment. And then 7,871 acres remained in the critical area. So these all these maps that I'm going to show you are also attached to your staff report, and you're probably wondering why there's so many. It's because we have some extensions in Harford County, which is not unique to Harford County, but it's certainly one of the counties that we need to show you where these extensions are. This, however, is an example of a result of one of the losses. As Tay pointed out to you, there is a military installation in Harford County, the Aberdeen Proving Ground, and we have deducted those acres from Harford County's totals. However, as she said, the installation still remains in the critical area and is subject to the Coastal Zone Consistency Act. This is a loss due to conversion of wetlands that were there, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then they disappeared into open waters. So that's also deducted from the overall total. And then this is one example of a natural gain in Harford County. This is an example of a 1,600-foot gain from the original 1,000-foot boundary. And we did ground truth this wetland and stream system and determined that this is indeed the new line. So the next 8 slides I'm going to try and go through very quickly. I went through them with the subcommittee this morning. In Harford County, as I said, beyond the 1,000-foot boundary, there are areas that kind of go beyond that boundary, and these are what are extensions to the critical area, which every jurisdiction is allowed to do if they so choose. And Harford County did that when they did their original map update. The areas that you see in tan are existing critical areas. So this shape in tan is the existing extension. And then where you see green are areas where the county chose to further extend those areas. In this case, this is a county park, and these are adjacent county-owned lands, and they clip them in to the extension. Most of this area here is forested. The main reason the county did extensions back in the late 80s was due to the floodplain mapping. So some of the changes you're going to see on some of these other extension maps are going to reflect some changes to the floodplain maps, and I'll show you that in a moment. So this extension, this big one here, which existed, includes a wetland of special state concern. These things are actually listed by name in the statute. I think they're in MDE's statute. So that was here, and we're just simply cleaning up some edges of parcel boundaries. There's a little clip out here because this was some private lands that we clipped out. So not much change on this extension, but a few changes. On this extension, we had a loss, which we actually did some field determination. We went out and we checked this stream and wetland system. So this was a loss of critical area. This is an extension because you see it's not the smooth lines that we have due to the floodplain mapping. Extension 4, we have some similar clipping out, if you will, mostly of critical area because of floodplain changes. And then we have a little bit of gain here. This extension happens to show that 1,600-foot one that this is the natural extension. But over here we have some new areas of extension based on wetlands and floodplain mapping, these little fingers next to this development. This is down on the Perryman Peninsula. This area that's being clipped in as a new extension is owned by the Hartford Land Trust. And then these areas that are all being clipped in are all publicly owned properties that are being clipped in. They're part of a larger forested contiguous parcel that supports forest, interior dwelling, bird habitat, and wetland areas. Almost done. This map is a little confusing, as I explained to the subcommittee this morning, because it adjoins the municipal boundary lines of the city of Aberdeen. And there's a couple of extensions that got clipped out because Aberdeen chose not to continue extending where it was within their municipal boundaries. But where it was within the county's boundaries, you can see they filled in some parts of the extension areas that are public lands. Again, all public lands, and they are protecting some sort of habitat as I've described. The final slide is of Susquehanna State Park. This is the Susquehanna River. This tributary is Deer Creek. This is actually beyond the tidal extent of the Susquehanna River, but back in the late 80s, the county decided, along with Department of Natural Resources, that it would be a good idea to try and extend the critical area protections to these lands because there are, and there was, and there still are many, mostly plant species, and there's forest interior dwelling bird habitat. So we're filling in these areas. So that is a really quick summary of 8 extension areas plus the county's summary of their regular map update. And I'm going to turn it back over to Chairman Deegan.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'll recognize the program chairman, Sue Beard.
Mr. Chairman, the program subcommittee concurs with the chairman's determination that Harford County's mapping update can be reviewed as a refinement to Harford County's critical area program. Further, the program subcommittee recommends the chairman approve the Harford County map amendment as proposed.
I thank you for that recommendation and accept it, and that'll be my final decision. Thank you very much. Lisa, you're up again.
Took my microphone off. Can you hear me? Half out of a big mouth.
You done?
One thing at a time here. Getting there. Apologies. Thought I was finished, but yes, as Chairman Deegan said, I'm here to present to you the map update for the town of Northeast. This one's not quite as complicated, but I will go through it for you. Just a little bit of history. The Northeast River, as you might imagine, adjoins the town of Northeast, and Captain John Smith, which many of you know, was one of the first explorers of the region. He was in the Northeast River around 1608. And the town was settled about 50 years later, so it's a pretty old town. We know that there was a tribe of the Shawnee that inhabited the southern portion of the town, which is where the picture here, this church, St. Mary Ann's Episcopal Church, which dates from the 1700s, is located in the town of Northeast on the southern end. And in fact, some of the tribe's persons are known to be buried in the same cemetery. So one of our co-workers, Finn, actually decided to go and check it out. And then Casey, one of our other coworkers, thought, well, I'm going to go tread perhaps where Captain John Smith tread. So the town was incorporated just prior to the Civil War. It's a very charming little place to visit, so I would encourage that. It's located in Cecil County, the northeastern part of the state, and the town itself is centrally located, also about equal distance between Baltimore to the southwest and Philly to the northeast. So as I stated before, map updates are required every 12 years by the statute and by COMAR 270111, and the town commissioners and the mayor amended this ordinance on July 27, 2002. This is the map that was attached to that ordinance, which shows the new clean line boundary for the town. You can see that it is either red intensely developed area or yellow limited development area. They do not have resource conservation areas in this town. And then this is just a quick shot of what the map looked like when it was in the public review process that shows the current and proposed boundaries. You can see some losses and gains. So the gain map looks like this and the loss map. Big loss over here. We did do site investigation of this piece of the Northeast River and determined it wasn't, the tide didn't go as far as the original maps had said. We had some minor gains along here, so what it turned out to be was 8 acres of gains, 36-acre loss with a net loss of 28 acres and 267 acres remaining. So not too bad. One other thing that the ordinance did was this town has special buffer areas, which are the same as modified buffer areas. The town hasn't updated their ordinance yet to reflect that new terminology. However, when they did do their original mapping, somehow there was a few parcels that got clipped out of the original boundary line. So we are clipping them in and making sure that they are part of that 100-foot area. So if they come in for a permit, they will be subject to the special buffer areas. And turn it back over to Chairman Deegan.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll recognize Sue Greer, Chairman of the Program Subcommittee. I had a much better picture of him, by the way.
Mr. Chairman, the Program Subcommittee concurs with the Chairman's determination that the town of Northeast's critical area boundary and SBA mapping update can be reviewed as a refinement to the town's critical area program. Further, the Program Subcommittee recommends that the Chairman approve the Town of Northeast map amendment as proposed.
Thank you very much. I concur with that recommendation, and that will be my final decision. Okay, time we've been waiting for right now.
I will try my best. Be just long. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Okay. So good afternoon. Jennifer Esposito presenting a text amendment for the Anne Arundel County. We do have a representative here today, Ms. Kelly Krenitz with Anne Arundel County Planning and Zoning to help answer any questions you may have. So the text amendment under Bill 5722 amends portions of the county code relating to nurseries with landscaping and plant sales. It is a current use within the county code. It's also a permitted use under the resource conservation area. The intent of the bill is to allow more flexibility for nurseries to sell and store items related to nursery and landscaping uses. And to get into the meat and bones of the actual amendment, I want to just briefly touch base with the resource conservation area and its allowed uses. The resource conservation area is obviously nature dominated with agricultural fields, forests, wetlands, and resource-based activities such as fisheries, agriculture, and forestry activities. New commercial, industrial, and institutional uses are generally prohibited unless a local jurisdiction places certain limitations or restrictions on those uses, and growth allocation is the mechanism in which those uses can expand beyond any in-place limitation, and those limitations are reviewed and approved by the commission. So the definition of a nursery is a place where nursery stock, i.e. hardy or non-hardy plants, are produced for sale and distribution, and a nursery is an agricultural use. The county changed or amended their definition to now state a facility for the cultivating, harvesting, and sale of plants and other nursery items grown on site, either in the ground or in containers prior to sale, and includes the sale of products related to landscaping and the cultivation of plants, bushes, trees, and other nursery items. The retail wholesale use aspect of this addition is non-agriculture related and is more of a commercial use in nature. There's also a copy of the bill attached to your staff report and a definition of an agricultural activity as a footnote on page 2 of your staff report. Accessory retail and wholesale uses can include the sale of and display of like container pots or other gardening equipment like hoses, rakes, etc. Can also include the storage for sale of hardscape landscaping materials such as pavers and the stone that goes under the pavers. Additional changes to the code include the removal of a limitation that the county currently had, which was 1% of the lot for which these nurseries could use for retail and wholesale uses. Now that is outright permitted. It also now permits the storage and display up to 30% of the lot or 1 acre, whatever the lesser extent is, for materials and products used for and sold for landscaping and the cultivation of plants and other nursery items such as stone, mulch, and fertilizer. So again, as stated, this is a current use allowed in the resource conservation area. The county has other RCA uses that are permitted that are more industrial or commercial in nature, such as research facilities or religious facilities. They have limited the more commercial or institutional uses to 15% of the lot or 20,000 square feet, the lot coverage associated with that, to the lesser extent. Those uses that have that limitation have been reviewed and approved by the commission previously, so it's consistent with their use table. Also, commission staff researched other program types and looked at non-agriculture activities or commercial-like activities tied to an agricultural use, and many of them have similar limitations to the more commercial uses. We've also discussed the issue of the non-agricultural uses that's tied to an agricultural use with the Department of Agriculture, and the representatives from MDA agreed that a general limit on those types of uses tied to an agricultural use such as nursery, they agreed that that was a thing to do. And with that, I will turn it back to Chairman Deegan.
Any questions? None. I'll recognize Sue Greer, Chairman of the Program Subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman, the Program Subcommittee concurs with the Chairman's determination that this text amendment may be processed as a refinement to Anne Arundel County's Critical Area Program. Further, the Program Subcommittee recommends the Chairman approve the text amendment with the condition that Section 18-13-206, subparagraph 25 of the Anne Arundel County Code be amended to state, quote, nurseries with landscaping and plant sales, comma, provided the nursery is the primary use and the lot coverage associated with all other commercial uses is limited to the lesser of 15% of the lot or 20,000 square feet, period, in quotes.
I appreciate the concurrence and recommendations, and that'll be my final decision. Okay, we're going on to old businesses, which will not take very long. Right, Kate?
Correct, Chairman Deegan. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention what we're calling a clerical error, and we're going to update our files accordingly. So last month, we brought to you the Town of Chesapeake City critical area map update, and we had a map attached to that staff report that did not match the map that was approved by the town and attached to their resolution. And thanks to Eagle Eyes of Commissioner Blazer, she noted they were two tiny little parcels that had no designation on them. They were actually blank. These are not near the boundary, had nothing to do with the boundary line update. It's just an error on our part in creating the map to attach to the staff report. So we are going and grabbing a copy of the map that was approved by the town and putting it in the file. So we wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Thank you, Commissioner Blazer.
And my learned counsel
Yes?
told me you have nothing to report.
No, I have no legal updates.
So she says that I have to push her, so I asked her about Mr. Moorhead. You guys remember what, 2 years ago? He died. And
Yes.
MDE is still.
MDE is
screwing
still
around with
working.
it. Okay.
Yes, MDE is still working on that case. Yes,
But hopefully that's in St. Mary's County, right?
correct.
Okay, that's any new business from any of the commissioners? I want to recognize David Marks for a short announcement.
Well, thank you. I think I'm one of the longest serving commissioners on here, and my term expires anyway in a few months, so I'm going to be resigning. My new district is largely waterfront, and I just want to make sure I'm avoiding conflicts of interest, which become more acute when you represent the waterfront versus a landlocked district that I now represent. So it's been a pleasure serving here. This is a highly professional group. It's been very informative. Thank you to the staff, and thank you to the chairman.
We appreciate your service for that, almost 8 years.
Almost 8 years, yeah.
And, good luck in your election next month.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry to see you leave early. Not much early, but.
Not much.
Okay, is there any other new business? No, we'll stand adjourned and one next month.